Long before walls, doors, and soft beds existed, humans faced nights that were long, cold, and full of fear. The Stone Age night was not a time for rest. It was a test of survival. When the sun disappeared and the firelight faded, darkness swallowed everything. There were no lamps, no comfort, no safety, only silence, shadows, and the distant echoes of wild creatures moving through the night. For early humans, sleep was never truly peaceful. The cave that seemed like a shelter by day could turn into a trap by night. Lions, bears, wolves, and other predators often used the same caves to rest or hide. A man could enter a cave to escape the rain, only to realize it already belonged to something far more dangerous. Every night carried the same question. Would the morning ever come? Lying down to sleep meant surrendering control. It meant closing one's eyes in a world where danger was everywhere. A faint noise outside could be the wind, or the sound of something breathing in the dark. The soft crackle of the fire could be comforting, or it could remind you that it was the only thing keeping the night away. Sleep came slowly, and it never lasted long. Some groups tried to take turns watching the night. While a few people slept, others stayed awake, guarding the cave entrance, holding a wooden spear or a burning stick. But the night was long, and the body could not resist forever. Even the guards would sometimes close their eyes for just a moment. And that was all it took for danger to strike. Imagine lying on the cold stone floor, wrapped in animal skin, listening to the distant howl of wolves. The firelight dances on the walls, creating shadows that look like moving figures. You are not sure what is real. The fear of the unknown mixes with exhaustion, and the body gives in to sleep. Yet, deep inside, your mind remains awake, half aware, half dreaming, waiting for the next sound, the next movement, the next sign of danger. For early humans, the night was not peaceful. It was a silent battlefield. The darkness was the enemy, and the fire was the only fragile defense. A single spark stood between warmth and death. To sleep too deeply was to risk never waking again. Those who survived learned to sleep lightly, to wake at the smallest sound, to dream with one ear open. This light sleep became part of human nature. Even today, people sometimes wake in the middle of the night for no clear reason, their hearts racing, as if an ancient instinct still whispers that something might be watching. The caves, though they offered shelter, were never truly safe. They were not homes. They were temporary hideouts in a world that offered no mercy. The cold floor, the smoke from the fire, the heavy air, and the constant fear all became part of nightly life. Rest was rare, and comfort was a distant idea. And yet, despite the danger, humans continued. Night after night, they faced the same fear, learned to control it, and passed that strength to their children. Over time, the fire became a symbol, not just of light, but of hope. It was the heart of the group, the small circle of safety in a world of darkness. To close one's eyes beside the fire was an act of courage. It meant trusting that the light would last until dawn. It meant believing that the predators outside would not come closer. It meant surviving one more night in a world where sleep itself was dangerous. When the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, the world of the Stone Age changed completely. The colors faded, the warmth vanished, and the land fell silent. Shadows stretched across the valleys, and every sound grew louder. What had felt safe during the day now looked different under the cover of night. Colder, emptier, and far more dangerous. Darkness in those times was absolute. There were no lights in the distance, no glow of cities, no moon every night to comfort the eyes. When the fire burned low, everything vanished into a deep, heavy blackness. And within that darkness, fear grew stronger than hunger, stronger even than exhaustion. Humans could not see clearly after dusk. Their eyes were weak compared to the creatures of the night. Lions, wolves, hyenas, all could see and move effortlessly through the shadows. They were the masters of the dark, while humans were blind, clumsy, and vulnerable. The night did not belong to man. It belonged to the hunters. Inside the caves, small fires flickered weakly. Men sat close together, trying to keep warm, whispering to one another in low voices. They could hear movement outside, soft, cautious steps, the breaking of a branch, the breathing of something large. Was it the wind, or something else? No one knew for sure. The imagination filled the silence with danger. Sleeping in such darkness was almost impossible. Closing your eyes meant giving up control. It meant surrendering to the unknown. Even when sleep came, it was light and restless. Every sound brought the mind back to alertness. The crackle of the fire, the drip of water, the distant howl that echoed through the forest. Each one reminded them that the night was alive and watching. Some tried to stay awake through the night, keeping the fire alive, feeding it with branches and dry grass. But the body always lost against fatigue. A single moment of weakness could mean disaster. When the flames faded, the shadows crept closer, and eyes began to glow in the darkness beyond the cave. Imagine sitting there, half awake, your back against a stone wall. The fire burns low. The air feels cold. Somewhere in the distance, you hear something moving, slow, deliberate, closer each time. You grip your spear tighter, your heart beating fast. You tell yourself it's just the wind. You hope it's just the wind, but you don't really believe it. This was the rhythm of every night. Fear, silence, waiting. Humans learned to live with it. They learned to rest without truly sleeping, to dream without peace. And in a strange way, the darkness trained them. It sharpened their instincts. It taught them to listen, to sense danger before seeing it. Even today, that old fear remains inside us. Many people still feel uneasy in total darkness. Some leave a light on when they sleep. Others wake suddenly at night, their heart racing for no reason. These are echoes, faint, ancient memories, of the nights when darkness was not just the absence of light, but the presence of death. In the Stone Age, the night was not a time of calm. It was a time of survival. The darkness was endless, heavy, alive. And every morning, when the first light touched the land, it was a victory. Proof that they had survived one more night in a world that tried to devour them in their sleep. There were nights when humans had no cave, no shelter, and no place to hide. Sometimes the land offered nothing but open fields and empty skies. In those nights, people slept under the stars, or tried to. The air was cold, the ground was hard, and the darkness stretched endlessly in every direction. Sleeping outside was one of the most dangerous things a man could do. The wind carried strange sounds. The forest whispered and moaned. Insects buzzed, animals called, and somewhere in the distance, something always moved. Even when the night was calm, the silence itself felt alive, filled with hidden eyes that watched from the dark. The cold was a constant enemy. Without heavy clothes, without blankets, the body trembled until it could no longer resist. Men wrapped themselves in animal skins, huddled close together, and still the chill found its way through. The earth beneath them felt like ice, and every hour of sleep came with pain. Some nights were so cold that even fire could not help much. The body wanted rest, but the cold refused to allow it. Then came the rain, sudden, relentless, merciless. Drops fell heavy, soaking the furs and the soil beneath. The ground turned into thick mud. The fire hissed and died, leaving only steam and darkness. Men lay there drenched, shivering, waiting for dawn, hoping the storm would pass before they did. And even when the weather was kind, the living ground was not. Insects crawled from the soil. Scorpions and spiders moved silently through the night. Sometimes a snake would slide near a sleeping body, attracted by warmth. There were no beds, no walls, and no warning. A single sting or bite could end a life before sunrise. Imagine lying flat on the ground, your body pressed against the earth, your mind fighting to rest. You can feel every stone under your skin. You hear every movement in the grass. You want to sleep, but your heart refuses. Fear keeps you awake longer than the cold ever could. The stars above seem far away, and the sky feels too big, too empty, too indifferent. Still, they tried. They had no choice. They slept in the open, beside dying fires, among the sounds of nature that never slept. Sometimes they took turns keeping watch, but exhaustion always won in the end. Morning would come, and whoever woke up alive knew that luck, not comfort, had carried them through the night. The open earth became both bed and threat. It held them, but it offered no mercy. The ground gave life through food and water, but at night it gave only pain. The soil was rough, cold, and alive with unseen dangers. The body ached, and the mind never fully rested. And yet, even in that misery, there was endurance. Humans learned to survive nights like these. They adapted. They accepted that comfort was a luxury the world would not give them. They learned to sleep lightly, to move quietly, to trust the fire, and to wake quickly. Each night in the open became another lesson, that life would continue, even when rest felt impossible. The modern world has forgotten that kind of night. Today we sleep under roofs and blankets, protected from the wind and the rain. But the memory remains somewhere deep inside. A part of us still remembers the feeling of lying under a vast, silent sky. A sky that once made sleep the most dangerous act of all. In the age before walls and weapons, before safety and warmth, fire was more than just a tool. It was protection. It was hope. It was life. For early humans, the fire was not only light, it was the only thing standing between them and the night. When the last light of day faded and the cold wind rose, small fires became the heart of every camp. Around them, men gathered, sitting close, their tired faces glowing in orange light. Beyond that circle of warmth lay endless darkness, thick, silent, and full of eyes. The flickering fire was their fragile border between safety and fear. Starting a fire was a battle of its own. There were no matches, no sparks from metal, only stones, dry wood, and patience. The first flicker of flame was a victory, a sign that they would survive another night. And when the fire finally caught, its soft crackling sound became the rhythm of safety. A small heartbeat, in a world of danger. The fire did more than warm their bodies. It kept predators at a distance. Lions and wolves hesitated to cross the line of light, wary of the moving flames. But even so, danger never truly disappeared. Some animals were curious, drawn by the strange glow and the smell of smoke. The fire gave safety, but also revealed their presence to everything that watched from the dark. As the night deepened, some men stayed awake beside the flames. They fed the fire with wood, keeping it alive. The others tried to rest, sleeping close enough to feel the heat but far enough not to burn. Yet everyone knew, if the fire died, the fear would return instantly. Every spark mattered. Every flame was a promise of life. Imagine sitting in that quiet darkness, your face warm from the fire, your back cold from the air behind you. You stare into the flames, but beyond them lies only blackness. Every sound outside feels closer than it is. Every shadow moves, even when nothing moves at all. The fire dances, but your heart stays still, listening. Sometimes the wind would rise, and the fire would struggle. Sparks would fly, and men would rush to protect the small circle of light. When rain fell, panic followed. Wet branches, dying embers, smoke filling the air. Every drop of water threatened to end their fragile safety. The night without fire was not just dark. It was death itself. The fire became more than a tool. It became a companion, a living presence they spoke to in silence. Around it, they told stories, shared warmth, and waited for the sun to rise. The flames painted shapes on the cave walls, turning fear into something almost beautiful. It was the only comfort they had, a light against the unknown. By dawn, the fire would shrink to faint embers, whispering in smoke. The men who stayed awake would finally rest, while others gathered to start the day. They had survived another night. The ashes were proof that the fire had done its duty. It had guarded them, kept the beasts away, and given them a few precious hours of uneasy sleep. The fire taught humans something important, that even the smallest light can hold back the darkness. That warmth, even for a short time, can mean survival. In that fragile glow, humans found more than protection. They found the first spark of what would one day become civilization. In the ancient world, when danger lived in every shadow, sleep was never something to be trusted. It was a risk, a pause in vigilance, a moment when the body rested, but the mind could not fully let go. To survive, early humans learned that someone had to stay awake while others closed their eyes. Thus began the long tradition of the night watch. Inside dark caves or around small fires in open fields, men would take turns keeping guard. While most lay down on the hard ground, one or two stayed awake, watching the entrance, listening to the forest, staring into the darkness that surrounded them. Their hands gripped spears or burning sticks. Their eyes moved constantly, scanning the black beyond the light. Every sound, a crack, a rustle, a breath, demanded attention. But the nights were long. The cold made the body tremble. The fire burned low. The eyes grew heavy. The line between wakefulness and sleep blurred. Even the strongest guard would sometimes drift for a second that could mean death for everyone. Those who tried to sleep did not find rest either. Even when lying close to the fire, even when someone was keeping watch, their sleep was shallow and broken. The faintest noise would pull them back to awareness. A gust of wind, the snapping of a twig, or a distant howl would awaken the whole group in an instant. They had learned that silence could be as dangerous as noise. Sleep in those days was a fragile thing. It came in short bursts, scattered through the night. Humans learned to nap lightly, to half-dream with open ears. The body rested just enough to continue, but the mind stayed alert, ready to wake at any hint of danger. This pattern, light sleep, frequent waking, became part of human nature. Imagine sitting by the fire, the last watcher of the night. The flames flicker low, the others lie still, their breathing slow and shallow. Beyond the cave entrance, the world is silent, too silent. You lean forward, staring into the darkness, unsure if you truly see something or only imagine it. The fire pops softly, and your heart beats faster. You are alone with the night. Sometimes, when the fear became too heavy, two guards stayed awake together, whispering to each other to stay conscious. Their voices were low, careful not to wake the others, yet loud enough to keep themselves from falling asleep. The night seemed endless, stretching on with no sign of dawn. When the first light finally appeared, it felt like victory. The darkness retreated, and the danger with it. But the faces of the men showed exhaustion, red eyes, pale skin, and stiff movements. Marks of another night survived, not rested. This constant need for alertness shaped human behavior forever. Even in modern times, we still carry fragments of that ancient vigilance. Many people find it difficult to sleep deeply in unfamiliar places. Some wake suddenly at the slightest sound. The instinct that once saved lives still whispers quietly in the back of the mind. Stay ready. For early humans, the night watch was more than protection. It was community. Each person depended on the others to stay alive. Trust became as important as fire. A man slept because he trusted that someone else was awake. The rhythm of survival was built on shared responsibility and fragile rest. And so, through thousands of nights, humanity learned to live between fear and fatigue. They never slept deeply, never completely, but they slept enough to survive. The night watch was their shield, and sleeplessness their price. It was the cost of being human in a world that never truly slept. Long before soft beds and blankets existed, sleep came only from exhaustion, not from comfort. The people of the Stone Age lay down on bare earth, on rocks, or on rough layers of grass and fur. The ground was their bed, cold, uneven, and unkind. The idea of comfort was still far away in the distant future. When a man rested, his bones pressed against the earth. Every stone beneath him reminded him that softness was a dream. There were no pillows, no warmth except from the fire. His back ached, his legs stiffened, and his body fought the cold rising from the soil. Sleep came not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Even inside caves, the ground was cruel, damp, hard, and sometimes covered with small insects. It offered no mercy. The body became used to pain. Muscles grew tense, joints hardened, and rest never truly felt like rest. When morning came, men woke with aching limbs and heavy eyes, their strength half restored at best. The lack of rest made life harder. Hunting required speed and focus. Traveling long distances needed endurance, but without deep sleep, the body was slower, weaker, and easily tired. Yet there was no choice. The earth was the only place to sleep, and the cold ground did not care about their suffering. To survive, humans tried small tricks. They spread leaves beneath their furs. They chose dry spots near the fire. They sometimes dug shallow holes to avoid stones. But these were tiny comforts, not real solutions. The earth remained hard and heavy beneath them, and it reminded them every night how fragile their bodies truly were. Imagine lying down after a long day of walking, your back against the cold ground, every muscle sore. You close your eyes, but the rough stones press into your skin. The night wind touches your face, carrying the smell of earth and smoke. You hear distant insects moving near your ear. Sleep comes slowly, shallowly, and when it does, it feels more like escape than peace. Even the smallest creatures made rest dangerous. Scorpions, spiders, and snakes lived in the same soil. A careless movement during sleep could bring a sting, a bite, or a shock that ended a life. Every inch of the ground was alive, and the man sleeping upon it knew he was never alone. Because of this, sleep in the Stone Age was rarely deep. It was broken by discomfort, interrupted by fear, and shortened by the cold. The human body learned to rest in fragments. A few minutes of light sleep here, another there. Over time, the mind accepted this restless rhythm as normal. And still, every morning, they rose again. They stretched their aching backs, brushed off the dirt, and prepared for another day of struggle. Pain became a companion, as familiar as hunger or thirst. It reminded them that they were still alive, still part of the earth that gave and took with equal indifference. Today we sleep on soft beds, wrapped in warmth, behind walls that silence the world. But somewhere deep inside, our bodies remember. The way we turn in our sleep, the way we wake suddenly at night, the way our muscles tense without reason. They are echoes of the past, reminders that once, long ago, the ground was our only bed, and rest came only through endurance. In the earliest days, no one truly slept alone. Solitude meant weakness. A single man, resting far from others, was an easy target for the cold, the darkness, and the creatures that hunted at night. To survive, humans learned to gather, not just to hunt or share food, but to sleep together. Out of fear and necessity, the first small tribes were born. Sleeping in a group changed everything. The night no longer felt endless. The silence was broken by breathing, by quiet whispers, by the soft crackle of the fire. When one man stirred, another kept still. When one opened his eyes, another closed them. They built a rhythm together, a pattern of shared rest and shared vigilance. The closeness of others brought a fragile kind of comfort. Bodies pressed together created warmth. The heat of many men sleeping side by side kept the cold away when the fire burned low. A man who would have frozen alone could survive in the warmth of his tribe. Trust, not comfort, became the new blanket of the Stone Age. But sleeping in groups came with its own challenges. The sound of snoring, the movement of restless bodies, the sudden jerks of a dream, all broke the silence of the night. There was little peace, but there was safety. Every sound that once caused fear became normal. The human ear began to learn the difference between danger and familiarity, between the growl of a predator and the soft cough of a friend. Around the fire, men sometimes stayed awake longer than others, telling stories, murmuring in low voices, staring into the flames. These moments before sleep helped ease the tension of the night. The stories gave meaning to their fear, turning it into words, into memory. In that firelight, the first form of community began, not through buildings or tools, but through shared experience, shared survival, and shared rest. Imagine this scene. A small group of men gathered close under the night sky, their faces lit by the flickering light of the fire. One keeps watch while the others lie down, pulling animal hides over their bodies. The forest around them hums with sound, distant howls, rustling leaves, the occasional crack of a branch. But within their small circle, there is stillness, warmth, and the faint illusion of safety. Cooperation changed sleep itself. It allowed humans to rest longer, to recover more deeply. It gave them a reason to trust the night, even when danger remained. Each man knew that while he slept, someone else was awake, and that same man would later rest while another took his place. Sleep became a shared duty, a social act rather than a private one. Over generations, this way of sleeping shaped the human brain. It created awareness, empathy, and memory. The instinct to stay close to others during rest became part of our nature. Even today, people sleep better when they feel safe, surrounded by familiar sounds. We may have walls now, but the instinct is the same. We rest because we trust. The small tribes of the Stone Age were more than groups of survivors. They were the beginning of society itself. In their sleepless nights and quiet cooperation, they built the foundation of human connection. The nights were long, the fear constant, but together they endured. And through that endurance, they learned the first great lesson of civilization. Survival is easier when no one sleeps alone. The nights of the Stone Age were more than hours of rest. They were hours of survival. Every sunset meant the beginning of another battle, not against enemies, but against the darkness itself. For the early humans, sleep was never safe. It was a delicate balance between exhaustion and alertness, between the need to rest and the fear of not waking up again. Over time, that fear became something deeper. It became routine. It became instinct. The human brain, shaped by thousands of dangerous nights, learned that rest must always come with caution. That lesson has never truly left us. Even now, we carry pieces of it within our sleep. When humans lived among predators, they could not afford long, deep sleep. The body learned to rest lightly, to wake easily, to listen even while dreaming. The smallest sound, a crack, a whisper, a movement, could bring instant awareness. Those who slept too deeply often did not wake at all. The survivors were the light sleepers, the ones whose dreams never silenced the real world around them. Night after night, this habit became part of human nature. Sleep was divided into fragments, short cycles of rest, interrupted by awareness. The mind learned to drift in and out of consciousness, balancing recovery with readiness. This pattern, born from fear, would eventually become part of our biology. Even the dreams of early humans reflected that constant tension. They dreamed of eyes in the dark, of movement just beyond the firelight, of being chased or falling. Their dreams were warnings, rehearsals for survival, and when they woke suddenly, heart pounding, it was not just imagination, it was instinct. It was the ancient body remembering what danger felt like. This way of living left a mark that still lingers in us today. Many people wake during the night without knowing why. Some sleep lightly, others struggle to rest in new or unfamiliar places. The comfort of modern life, soft beds, locked doors, and glowing lights, cannot erase the echoes of a time when sleep was never certain. Deep inside, a small part of us still listens for danger in the silence. Imagine the first rays of dawn breaking after a long night. A group of tired men sit quietly beside the dying fire, eyes red from lack of sleep. The air is cold, but they smile faintly. Not from joy, but from relief. They have survived another night. Another chapter in the endless rhythm of fear, rest, and survival. For them, morning was not just light. It was safety. As generations passed, the fear of night slowly turned into respect for it. The darkness became a reminder of the world's power and of human weakness. But it also gave rise to rituals, keeping the fire alive, staying close to others, telling stories before sleep. In those simple habits, humans found a way to face their fear, not by defeating it, but by living with it. From those countless nights of anxiety, humanity learned to adapt. We built shelters, walls, villages, and finally cities, all in search of a safe place to close our eyes. But the memory of danger never disappeared. It shaped the very way we sleep, the way we dream, and the way we awaken. Fear became habit. Habit became instinct. And instinct became the quiet rhythm of human sleep. Fragile, alert, and never completely free from the echoes of the dark. Even now, when we turn off the lights and close our eyes, we are reenacting an ancient ritual. The world grows quiet. Shadows deepen. Somewhere, deep within, the old memory stirs. The memory of the night that once watched us back.